I think this is crazy. But so, actually, Shedeur Sanders, which is Shedeur's brother, commented on this post, something wild. I want to put this on the screen. So, this is reporting that Shedeur's not going to be a starter, whatever. Shedeur says, go make a sandwich, Mary. Super fucked up, but pretty wild. But
I knew that would hit you.
It is funny, though.
You want to know how wild this Browns quarterback situation has gotten? Shedeur Sanders' own brother told a reporter to go make a sandwich. Yeah, that actually happened. And now the head coach had to step up and address it directly. Let's break down everything that went down. So here's the background. Mary Kay Cabot, longtime Browns reporter from Cleveland.com, dropped a report saying Deshaun Watson has gained the edge over Shedeur Sanders as the starting quarterback heading into the 2026 season. That tweet hit 1.5 million views almost instantly. The internet went crazy. And Shedeur Sanders, Shedeur's brother, jumped in the comments and told her to go make a sandwich. Now look, that's funny on the surface, but it's also wild considering Shedeur is still trying to keep his own NFL career alive. That's not the move when you're trying to stay in the league.
Deshaun has gone to hell and back with his off-the-field issues, as we know. And yet, I believe that Mary Kay Cabot, who has been covering the Cleveland Browns for almost 40 years, is getting this straight from the horse's mouth. I believe she is so connected, so plugged in. Remember, she's not a columnist, she's a reporter. So this is not her opinion the way I would express my opinion, and you could say to me, you're crazy. Or Shiloh could rip me on social and say, you have no idea what you're talking about, and maybe he'd have a point.
But here's the thing about Mary Kay. Skip Bayless went on record saying she's been covering the Browns for nearly 40 years. She's not a columnist giving hot takes. She's a reporter. She's plugged in directly to Jimmy Haslam and his wife, who both have serious pull in that franchise. Skip's point was that she's not sharing her opinion, she's the messenger, and Shiloh attacking her doesn't change what the message actually is. Now, Skip's deeper concern here is about Jimmy Haslam himself. Haslam paid Deshaun Watson $230 million guaranteed over 5 years and still owes him $46 million for next season alone. Skip believes Haslam's pride is on the line. He wants Watson to succeed just to prove that signing wasn't a mistake. That's the real factor people need to understand. This isn't just a football decision. There's ego and money wrapped up in this thing at every level. But not everyone agrees with that take. The other side of this argument is that the competition is genuinely wide open. Both quarterbacks have been getting reps with the starting offense. Shedeur's been with the ones, then Watson gets some time with the ones, then Shedeur's back with the ones. That rotation tells you nobody has locked this thing up. If Watson was clearly the guy, he'd be running exclusively with the first team every single day. That's not what's happening.
For a game. I know it's preseason, but you got to see how they game prep as well.
By the way, Monken is on the record. I want to choose a starter by mid-June, so we don't go into camp with any.
And that's, but that's my point.
Want to. Okay, you got him.
And that's my point. He on the record saying that on that 92.3 The Fan interview that he did on the radio, and he did not say Deshaun is ahead now. So until he said, I don't really feed off what the reporters say, because she said a lot of shit last year that just wasn't true. Yeah.
And here's what gets overlooked when people talk about Shedeur's rookie season. He fell to the 5th round of the draft. He started the year 3rd on the depth chart. Most rookie quarterbacks in that situation mentally check out or just go through the motions. Shedeur didn't. He kept preparing like a starter. When he finally got his opportunity, he beat Aaron Rodgers at home. He beat Joe Burrow at home. He went 3-4 behind the worst offensive line and the worst receiving core in the entire league. Those aren't the results of a guy who doesn't belong. Now, Watson's side of the argument is real, too. He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He led the league in passing in Houston. He started 72 NFL games. He beat Josh Allen in a playoff game. The talent is absolutely there. The question is whether any of that version of Deshaun Watson still exists after years of injuries and off-field issues and sitting out of football. Nobody knows that answer right now. Not the coaches, not the analysts, not Watson himself probably. One of the best points made in this whole conversation was about how vets look in practice versus how they actually perform in games. The argument was simple. Experienced quarterbacks know how to practice. They sit on routes, avoid deep balls, make everything look clean and controlled. From the outside, it looks dominant, but that performance doesn't always translate to Sunday.
Watson is going to look sharp in practice because he's a veteran, and that's what veterans do. Shedeur's value shows up when the lights are on and the crowd is loud and real pressure is flying. That intangible leadership, that escapability, that confidence in live game situations, you simply cannot replicate that in a walkthrough.
Practice is not the game. In practice, I would expect Deshaun to look better in practice because he's the vet, man. I once was a vet in practice, and some days I just say, I ain't guarding no deep balls today, right? So from some random people come and watch practice, they gonna see Lee pick off every fucking curl slant. I'm gonna look great because I'm a vet. I know how to practice. I ain't guarding no deep shit, so I'm gonna sit on everything. I look amazing because I just know how to practice. That's how vets look. I once pulled up to Denver when Russ was there.
And that brings us to the business side of this. If the Browns want to sell tickets, generate TV buzz, and build something long-term, who do you think moves the needle? Shedeur Sanders has national star power. His following is massive. Starting him doesn't just help the team win, it helps the entire franchise commercially. Cleveland fans have always shown up no matter what, bags on heads or cheering loud. But if Shedeur is the starter, the energy in that building goes to another level entirely. Then Todd Monken stepped up and addressed everything head-on. He was asked directly how you keep a competition serious when Shedeur Sanders is out here making comments that are generating international headlines. And Monken's response was ice cold in the best way possible. He basically said if that kind of noise bothers his quarterbacks or bothers him, then none of them have any business being in that building. He said the scrutiny comes with the territory. Fans care, media talks, and that's exactly why coaches and players get paid what they get paid. And then he said something that should become a poster in every locker room. Want to stop the narrative? Play well. Want to stop the narrative? Win. That's it. Monken also confirmed he'd love to name a starter before training camp, ideally by mid-June, but he's not going to rush it. After only 3 practices together, there's no way to make that call responsibly. He wants to see these guys through the rest of the spring sessions and into preseason games before committing. That's the right approach from a first-year head coach who has no prior history with any of these players. Everyone is new to him. He's evaluating everything fresh, with no bias.
Who you start? It's a business, right?
It's not even close.
If we want to sell tickets and we want to make money, fuck the $46 million. If we want to make future money, who we start? Like we start Shedeur, that's not even close. So everything, look.
One thing Cleveland fans has proven over the years, they fucking go into the game whether they good or bad. And they've been mostly bad.
True.
So they don't matter who taking the snap. They come into the game no matter what.
Yeah.
Right?
Shit me.
The dog pound has always showed up. With bags on or cheering, they showed up. Right? They've
At the end of the day, this is the most interesting quarterback competition in the entire NFL right now. You've got a veteran with a massive contract and something to prove against a rookie with a 5th-round chip on his shoulder who's already beaten 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league. One side has money and experience, the other side has energy, star power, and a fan base that is completely locked in. The smart money says let them compete through preseason and make the call based on what you actually see. And if it's truly even close, history says the guy making $46 million gets the nod. But as Shedeur Sanders proves he's the better option, and there's a real argument that he already has, then Cleveland has a chance to build something real, something exciting, and something the whole league will be watching. Now let's talk about something that nobody is really discussing loudly enough. What happens to this Browns locker room depending on who gets named the starter? Because this decision doesn't just affect 2 quarterbacks, it affects every single player on that roster and the entire culture Todd Monken is trying to build from day one. Think about it from the young player's perspective first. The Browns went out this offseason and made serious moves. They drafted Shedeur in the 5th round, but also added skill position weapons. They signed offensive linemen. They brought in Denzel Boston. They got Casey Compton. These are guys who were recruited to Cleveland with a vision of what this offense could look like. Now imagine you were one of those young receivers or linemen, and you find out that the guy leading your offense is going to be a quarterback coming off 2 years of basically no football. That affects how you feel walking into that building every single morning. Young teams feed off energy. They feed off belief. And right now, Shedeur Sanders carries more belief from that young core than anyone else in that quarterback room. That's not a knock on Watson. That's just the reality of where this roster is and who built the buzz around this team going into 2026. When Shedeur is out there running the offense, those young skill players play looser, they play faster, they play with confidence because their quarterback plays with confidence. That stuff is contagious, and it cannot be measured in any stat sheet.
Now flip it. If Watson gets named the starter and it doesn't work in the first 4 or 5 weeks, what does that do to the locker room? You have a team that was built around youth and energy suddenly looking at a veteran quarterback who hasn't performed at a high level in years, struggling behind a rebuilt but still developing offensive line. That is a recipe for a disconnected locker room by week 6. And once that disconnect sets in, it is nearly impossible to pull it back together mid-season. We have seen this exact story play out in Cleveland too many times already. The other thing worth talking about is what this decision says about the future of the franchise beyond just 2026. If Cleveland commits to Watson and it goes sideways, they are right back to square one at quarterback. Again, no young franchise quarterback waiting in the wings, no continuity, no direction, just another wasted year in another offseason of everyone wondering what could have been with Shedeur Sanders if they had just trusted him from the jump. But if they start Shedeur and he struggles early, which is possible because even great young quarterbacks go through rough patches, they can ride it out, they can develop him, they can build around him. There is a 5 to 10 year vision attached to Shedeur Sanders that simply does not exist with Deshaun Watson. And smart franchises play the long game, even when it is uncomfortable in the short term. Let us also zoom out and look at the bigger picture of what this moment means for Shedeur Sanders personally, because this entire situation is actually a test of character more than it is a football competition.
Think about everything this young man has already been through just to get to this point. His father is Deion Sanders, one of the most polarizing and celebrated figures in the history of football. Everything Shedeur has ever done on a football field has been filtered through that lens. When he was at Jackson State, people said it was only because of his dad. When he went to Colorado and put up ridiculous numbers, people said the competition was weak. When he came out as one of the most refined pocket passers in his draft class, people said he was too polished, too groomed, too media trained. There was always going to be a reason to doubt him no matter what he did. And then the draft happened. Teams passed on him round after round after round. A player who many analysts believed should have been a top 10 pick, some even argued top 5, sat there and watched his name get called in the 5th round. That is a level of public embarrassment that would break most people. Not Shedeur. He showed up to Cleveland with the same energy he had at Colorado, same confidence, same preparation, same belief in himself. And then, when he finally got on the field, he showed why the doubt was always wrong. Beating Aaron Rodgers, beating Joe Burrow, doing it with a patchwork offensive line and receivers that opposing defenses barely had to respect. That is not luck. That is not a system. That is a quarterback who knows exactly who he is and refuses to let circumstances define him. So now, here he is again, facing another round of doubt, another moment where the easy storyline is that the veteran gets the job because of the contract and the experience and the history. And just like every other time, Shedeur Sanders has a chance to make the noise irrelevant by simply going out there and being undeniable. That is the chapter of this story that has not been written yet. And honestly, that is the chapter worth watching most. Not the press conferences, not the social media drama, not Shiloh's comments or Skip's takes, or the betting lines moving on a sports app. The real story gets written between the lines on a football field. And when it does, do not be surprised if Shedeur Sanders writes it exactly the way he always has, on his own terms, with the whole world watching and doubting, and proving every single one of them wrong. Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Who do you think starts week 1? Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson? Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single update as this quarterback battle heats up going into training camp. Mad Dog TV, let's go.